Close your eyes and imagine. What if the things in life that cause us the greatest pain, the things that bring us grief, are challenges? Challenges designed to help us grow, to ultimately become what we were always meant to be. We feel like we've been buried, but what if, like a seed, we've been planted? And having been planted, we grow to become a mighty tree. Now, open your eyes. Open your eyes to this way of viewing life. Come with me as we explore your true, infinite, eternal nature. This is Grief to Growth, and I am your host, Brian Smith. Welcome back to another episode of Grief to Growth. This is your sanctuary for understanding the complexities of life, the mysteries of our existence, and the pathways to finding healing and growth. Whether you're joining us for the first time or you're a regular listener, I'm your host, Brian Smith, and today we have a truly inspiring journey to share with you. In this episode, we'll delve into the world of Teena Christel. She's a remarkable individual whose last decade has been a transformative odyssey, transcending pain, embracing love, and achieving a profound awakening. Her life story is a testament to resilience, a journey from the brink of despair to the heights of spiritual enlightenment. Through her personal challenges, including the unimaginable loss of a son, she's a fellow shining light parent. She's uncovered the tools and the truths that have guided her through the darkness and into the light. Today, she's not just a survivor, she's a beacon of hope and wisdom. She shares her insights on heart-focused breathing, the power of the Akashic records, and the pivotal understanding that we as spiritual beings possess untapped potential and purpose, even in the most challenging times. Her journey is not just her own, but it's a shared narrative of loss, of discovery, and of transformation that I think speaks to each of us. We'll explore how our experiences have led her to teach others about the profound connections between our hearts and our souls, and how this connection can guide us through the grief to a place of peace and purpose. Her mission now extends beyond her personal growth. It's about empowering others through her work at healinghardest.com to uncover their own paths to healing and understanding. So if you're seeking comfort, if you're seeking understanding, or a new perspective on your journey, this episode is for you and promises insights and inspirations that could change the way you view the world around you and within you. So with that, I want to welcome to Grief to Growth, Teena Christel.
Thank you, Brian. It's wonderful to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here, Teena. We just met through a mutual friend a few days ago, and you and I talked, and I was like, we need to get you on to talk about your journey, your spiritual journey, and where you are now. So begin by telling us about your son.
Yes, Chase. Chase was an extraordinary child. I called him Starseed, Star Child, from the very beginning, because his intelligence and his awareness was kind of otherworldly. He was just beyond the norm.
Mm-hmm.
But he was very sensitive child, and had so much, passion around reading and history and understanding, and always had questions about everything. Why? Kids normally do that, but he was like beyond that. He wanted to know the reason behind everything, and so he was a beautiful soul, and he suffered. I always felt, but because he was, such a spiritual being, even, before I lost him, of course, that he really suffered in this world. The world was harsh for him, and it was tough, and he had a lot of anxiety. And, at some point he did turn to drugs as a release, and I lost him at 23 years old.
Yeah, I'm so sorry for your loss. And when we talked the other day, we talked about these children that are coming in now, and you call them I think it's Starseed or Star Child, and I've heard indigo children and the stuff like that. They seem to have this heightened sensitivity, and like they're here on a mission, very curious, very intellectual, all that stuff. But the world is so harsh that I think it's difficult for them.
It is. And it has been, and this, we're in the middle of this transformation now, and of course I didn't I didn't know that we were going to be heading into this, because I was a single parent. I was working all the time. I had 3 children, and I didn't know where we were heading, but my son, Chase, would tell me, Mom, you have no idea what we're heading toward. It's a metamorphosis. It's a transformation of humanity. And if we don't do something and we don't make a difference, in the way we do things, it's going to be bad for everybody. And I used to say, oh, sweetheart, quit reading all this negativity. And, I was just, sad that he was taking this all on his shoulders in some way, because he was really obsessed over it, like really humanity has to take, a different road than we're doing. And, studied the Hopi Indians, and he was just really, bright beyond his years. And so, but now that we're in this transformation of humanity, it brings a whole different understanding of where he was coming from. And in a way, it makes me feel much worse about that. I sort of dismissed him. I dismissed his concerns. I could have done that better. But I also know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and that he was part of the reason I was supposed to wake up too. Yeah. He had a role, and it was a big role, but it was short. It was a short stint, if you will. And but he did it well. He did what he came to do, and he continued to speak to me about it even after he left.
Yeah, well, a short time here. I think we all come in for a period of time, which is all short in the eyes of spirit, I guess. But for us from a human perspective, we judge. Like my daughter was 15 when she passed away, so we would say that's a short time. But Chase is still doing work from where he is now.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And what he does is, right away he was speaking to me. He came to me in dreams, actually as a young child, so real that I woke up feeling confused, like he was just here, like literally just there. It was bizarre at the time, but it only continued on from there. And I'd always been a spiritual person, so it didn't surprise me from the perspective that he was there. And he and I really connected on the spiritual side of things, even though I didn't, I thought he was a bit of a conspiracy theorist. And, now I realize he's a conspiracy realist is what he was. But our connection spiritually was really strong. So it didn't surprise me. But it was, what did surprise me is how real it was, how, I didn't feel like it was a dream, even though it was a dream.
Right.
Yeah. So, and he continued to speak to me. I went to Chaco Canyon one time, and he literally, his energy hugged me, and I just melted. It was, I had, I guess you'd call it shivers, or, I felt it clear, into my soul. Was there. And, so I'd had those experiences, and I had not had a lot of them, I would say under a dozen. But when they're there, they were significant.
So what you mentioned conspiracy theorists, and you said conspiracy realists. What kind of things was he telling you at the time?
He was telling me that we were under the spell of kind of a dark, evil bunch of people. It was basically, they were trying to snuff out our good, because they were afraid of us, because we were so powerful, because we were God's children, we were divine beings, and that we had essentially we had a energy on this planet that was holding us down and wanted to harm us. And at the time, I really didn't believe in, the devil, and it was kind of more, like, oh, everything's just fine, I mean, that's just how I was. And it felt heavy and a little scary when he would talk about it. So
Sure.
I'd say, honey, don't go down those roads, don't go down those roads. And I just kept trying to, get him to stop, because I felt like his energy was getting heavier the more he knew, and the more he would give me information that was kind of specific about what would come, that we would have these wars that were not real wars, and that they were being manufactured, if you will. But he would tell me a lot of different things, and he got to a point where he stopped telling me things because he knew what the reaction would be, and that's the saddest part for me. So, but now, since he left, kind of in his honor, I started diving in a little bit deeper and kind of trying to understand, what the world, and certainly I dove way deep into the spiritual side, which is why what I'm doing now. But in that discovery, you find out that there's a lot more. It's not just about the spiritual side. It does take in what we're actually experiencing in this lifetime. And fairly soon after he left, we started experiencing these strange anomalies, the pandemic and that kind of stuff. So, yeah. So ever since then, I've realized, and I still tell him, I don't hear him as much now. I think it's maybe because he knows I know. I don't know exactly, or, he did his job. I think he's thinking, well, I did my work. And there was even a time when I had that first realistic dream about him where I said, how are you? And he said, Mom, I'm fantastic. I don't have any feelings like I need to have something else outside of me, make me feel better, and I think he was talking about the addiction. But he said, I'm learning. I'm going to all these classes and I'm learning about, real music on the planet. Our planet wasn't real. It wasn't real. And I just said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, I'm telling you that there's so much more to everything than what we experienced there. And you don't die, and you never die. And anyway, it was a profound experience for me at that point, and changed my life. And I had a business at the time that I ran. And within a year, I started right away working on slowing down the business, selling it, or just getting out of it. And I did. Within a year, I kind of ran away from my life. And I just dove into my spiritual work and healing, and natural healing, organic healing. And
now, I know you paint, and the for people that are watching us on YouTube, they can see the background behind you is one of your creations. So how did the painting start?
Well, that is one of the most interesting and cool stories, if there is such a thing about all of this, is that 3 months before I lost Chase, I had this overwhelming feeling that I wanted to start painting, and I had zero artistic ability. I didn't know why I felt that way. I just felt like I really want to do it. So I started drawing first, because I was afraid. I was actually afraid to take the paintbrush, put it in the paint and put it on a white canvas, because I just had no confidence in what I could do. So I started drawing, and as I started understanding contrast, then I started feeling a little more confident. And my very first painting I ever did, I had this was in a partnership with a house that had this down in Mexico, that had this big brick or a cement wall around it. And I thought, I'm gonna paint this huge, gigantic mural. It was really tall. It was a really tall wall, and I did. These two big lizards, geckos, actually, on this big wall. And and I thought, well, that wasn't too bad. I think that was okay. So anyway, through the 3 months prior to that, I was painting a lot. And then when I lost Chase, I realized that this was a divine gift
Mm-hmm.
to me, because it is how I processed my grief. I painted a painting every day for a year.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
every single day. And I would stay up until I, quote, finished it. I mean, I even look around now and I think, oh, those are not finished. those definitely need help. But it was the most amazing experience for me to realize that I was given that gift, because I'm not sure that I could have made it through.
Yeah.
And somehow my soul or God, divine, whatever, chase, all of those things knew that. And
Yeah. It's interesting because I think we talked about our children, coming in with this plan and this knowledge, and we all have a plan, and we typically forget most of it, but there's some part of us that knows the plan. And I think we get just enough coming through to help us to make it through. Right.
right. Yeah, we do. And that's kind of where back when I was 19, 20, when my kids were little, 20, 21, I had children really early, my first two children really early. And I would do automatic writing. And
Yep.
I was always very interested in anything mysterious, and ancient, and and I would read anything that I could get my hands on, back then. And I heard that, if you just, I'd read this book or something, and I would just sit down and I'd start writing. And pretty soon I had friends that would come over and say, would you ask a question for me? And so this feeling of a spiritual connection was early on with me. But at the same time, I then became a single mom. And, I had 3 children later in life. But for a while, so I was, I had 2 children, then 3 children, and I was trying to make a living. So I had to put all of this on the shelf. So it's not like I was never spiritual before, but, from the perspective of becoming, diving in deeper and having a more, I guess, going further with that spirituality. I kind of forgot what you asked me though. So I think I'm rambling.
No, we were talking about the how the painting started, and
yeah.
So you answered my question just fine. So when so you were doing the painting before Chase transitioned, and what was you mentioned vivid dreams? He was coming to you in dreams and stuff. When did you start to think, okay, I need to really go deep? And so now I know you're into Akashic records and heart math and other things.
Yes. Well, the first thing I did was, I wanted to escape. Because I didn't want to be here anymore. When that happened, I could not imagine I would ever be happy ever again. I couldn't find joy. I couldn't find, I couldn't even find peace. Honestly, I was so overridden by guilt that I could have done things different and better, and all these things that I was, and I couldn't even go back into my business that I had, that I'd owned a business. And so for the next year, I basically, sort of, babied my business through as best I could, but I didn't really want to be there. And I kind of left it, I got it to a point where I could close it. And I moved to Arizona from Washington State. And I basically ran away from everything. So that started, because I didn't know how to deal with the world anymore. I didn't know how, because everything seemed so surface oriented. People didn't understand that life is so much different than we were pretending it to be. We thought it was about, making a living and, eating good food and going shopping or whatever, traveling, whatever it was. And I couldn't be there anymore. So I had to leave that, even though by that time I had a couple of grandchildren already. But I still couldn't handle that life as usual, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I moved to Arizona, and I sold my house and gave up my business, and I had enough money where I could just dive into my own heart, and go inside of myself. And in that, I found Heart Math, which is a company that nonprofit organization that teaches you basically how to be more resilient in life, right? And so I became certified. And even going through the training, I thought, because part of the resilience comes from being able to imagine and feel high vibration emotions, which is love and peace and joy, and compassion, those kinds of feelings. And I could not even go there because I was in grief and anxiety and even somewhat anger towards myself and depression and the low vibration. And so I learned, and I also read I read a lot of books, but I read an amazing book called Power versus Force, and that helped me understand the difference between high vibrations and low vibrations. And so I was learning at a really fast pace that I could not sustain life well if I stayed in this state of grief, basically, and sadness. So when I became certified, that's when I worked through and found that, finally found that I could remember and could bring myself back into my heart and bring myself back into my joy. It wasn't joy right away. It was peace. It started with peace.
Right.
That I could be peaceful with not having my son anymore. And I could bring peace to that. So I started just, reading every book I could find on, I was interested in organic healing and tuning forks. And somehow I was so focused that I thought healing had to do with color and sound and vibration. And I couldn't get off that feeling that was the truth. And so I bought every book I could to try to understand it. And then, went back to my Akashic, or to my automatic writing, and then came across Akashic records, which I'd never even heard of before. And it just stuck with me. I was immediately able to connect, and it almost felt like home. I don't know how to explain it, but it felt right. And I felt like this is what I'm supposed to be doing, but I need to do it with the heart because I want to help people with this heart-based living. And there was a point where I wanted to do something, kind of like what you're doing. I wanted to help parents, but I didn't know how. I didn't know how to do that, who had lost, their child, because I felt like I'd been through such a deep place, and finding my way out felt like I needed to share that. So now I can do that with you. So, bringing that all into a beautiful place that I have not been able to do before now, other than with my work with the Akashic Records and Heart Math.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you sharing that, and I think it's really important. Remind us again, how long ago has it been since Chase passed?
It was 2014. So this year, August this year, it'll be 10 years.
Yeah, so you're coming up on 10 years. I'm coming up on 9 years. And that feeling that you have when, as you said, I'm never going to feel joy again. I can't even feel peace. That feeling that there's just something wrong with the world and it will never be right. And you look around and you wonder why everybody else doesn't see everything that's wrong. So your story gives people hope. And I want to say to people that are listening that are early, because I have a lot of parents who listen that are early on their journey, they might think, well, I can never get to where she is. But I want people to know that that's not where we start when our children cross over. We don't start there. It starts with just that spark of hope that maybe I can get there one day.
Yes. And I believe it's a soul journey. I also believe that he told me this on one of those occasions where he visited me, that he was supposed to leave at an earlier age, and he told me it was supposed to be 14. He knew that I couldn't handle that I was not ready for that. And he also told me that his journey here, his purpose here was to help wake people up to the what was coming, and that we needed to get ourselves right. We needed to understand our power, our divinity, and he also, basically in some of those messages said that he was, able to put off leaving because he felt that he did all he could do, that his purpose was finished, and that he was in a peace, a complete peace. That he did what he needed to do when he came here, and that now it's up to me, and for me to look inward, and for me to see how his leaving will help me do the work forward that he was handing off to me, and he was handing it off to me because it was his catalyst, the catalyst of him leaving my life, that pushed me into doing more with my life, if that makes sense. And sometimes we need that, that really big, in your face, something that you can't, that just makes you fall to your knees.
Yes, yes. And I know that sometimes when people first hear the concept that we're talking about, and I've heard because as a parent, when our child crosses, and it's almost universal, we feel some form of guilt. I mean, I've talked to hundreds of thousands of parents who've lost children, and that guilt is almost universal. I should have done something different. I could have done something different. And then they hear this concept of soul planning, and then they go, "Oh, well, you're saying it's my fault that my child died early." And they'll actually take it that way, like it's like, they sacrificed for me. But it's a mutual thing. It's a soul plan, and it's based upon the fact that we know that our children didn't die. Their lives weren't cut short. Their lives continue, and they continue to work with us from where they are. So for someone hearing this and going, "Well, then it's my fault that my daughter died at 12 or whatever." No, it doesn't mean it's your fault. It's an agreement that we have.
That's right. It's exactly an agreement. And it also goes further to an agreement, not with just them, but an agreement that we make with ourselves, with our soul. Our soul agreement before we came here is to experience many of the things that we're experiencing. I mean, certainly we have free will, and we can do anything. We can choose to go any direction that we want to once we're here. But we are here very specifically to have first of all, an expansion of the soul, to experience certain things that we can't experience without a body. And that's just the first thing right there, is a lot of souls, light beings, I call them, want to come here, and especially during this time, because it is a pivotal moment in humanity. And when we come here, a lot of people, especially when I go through the Akashic records with people, they've had terrible experiences, and and they say, why, and they feel like a victim, and the record keepers are very clear. This is something you chose, whether you chose it before you came here, or whether you chose the path after you came here through free will. This is what you chose to experience, and you're still here. So it does make you stronger. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And there is a moment where we have to realize that we are completely in charge of everything that we do. We are the ones. Yes, things happen, and yes, you could get hit by a car tomorrow, but you also were placed there in that spot at that moment. So taking that responsibility for myself was a huge step in me allowing myself to be free of the pain of feeling like I was a victim in some way.
Time for a real quick break. Make sure you like and subscribe. Liking the video will show it to more people on YouTube, and subscribing will make sure you get access to all my great content in the future. And now back to the video. Yeah, I think that's a very important concept, and it's a very jarring concept when people first hear it, that we are responsible for our situations, because again, people will take that to say, well, you're saying I'm to blame, and it's not that at all. It's that we do come to have these experiences, and we think while we're here, it's like, well, why would I want to have this experience? Why would I want to go through, this? But then we see from people like yourself who you've grown from this experience, and you're doing things you wouldn't be doing if it weren't for Chase's passing.
That's exactly right. I don't believe that I would be. I think that at some point I probably would have, realized that I was on a path of I don't know, materialism might be the best word to put it. I mean, I was, in a business and enjoyed making money, and, and I was kind of putting my, I had a nice house, and
Mm-hmm.
I was putting my life more in the here and now, and the third dimensional space,
Sure.
rather
Yeah.
than what I came here to do. So I think eventually I would have sort of seen it, but I maybe not have done anything about it. But the catalyst of him leaving made me do something about it right then. I
Right.
really couldn't go forward because I saw everything clearly. I had a boyfriend at the time that I thought I was madly in love with, and all of a sudden I could see that he was not the person for me. And it was almost like within a week of all of this happening, I could see everything clearly, and I knew everything I was doing. The house, I had to sell my house. I had everything I was doing was not in congruence with my soul. I was not in balance with my soul. And
Mm-hmm.
and until I made changes, which I couldn't make them fast enough because I had a lot of anchors, holding me. I couldn't make them fast enough. But until I'd made all those changes, there was no way I was going to be able to, manage in that world anymore. I had to do what I did. And, and I spent all my money, living a life of reading and absorbing, and, which didn't do me any favors now,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm tired, but would I change it? Absolutely would not change it. I wouldn't change it.
Yeah.
And that is saying something.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is saying a lot, because again, it takes a while to get to that point, I think.
Oh yeah.
Because for you to be able to say, I recognize the gift in what's happened, even something as tragic as losing a child at a very young age, that there's something about that set me on this journey. And again, that even that word loss, Chase is still with you. And we talked about it before we start recording. Chase is, for people, again, people that are watching on YouTube, Chase is actually behind Teena in the picture. And tell how that came about.
Yes. So this is one of the first paintings that I had. And as I was painting this, I think, let's see, one way or another, it's a um, anyway, it was a tunnel
Mm-hmm.
behind me. I think you can sort of see it there.
Yeah, we can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, and a doorway to, it, and I kept painting these kinds of things: doorways, portals, openings, because that's what was coming to me.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was painting this painting, I started realizing that, let's see, over on this side, there was sort of a face that was emerging just by, moving the brush around and doing whatever. There was a face emerging, and I'd just kind of stand back and I'd look at it and it's like, well, isn't that interesting? And as it, as I kind of ignore it for a while, I didn't want to fix it because I could see that there was a face there.
Mm-hmm.
Now it wasn't quite as clear as this face, because when I was coming to the point where I was finishing it, there was another one, which is on this side, up that way,
Mm-hmm.
that looked like, anyway, these things just appeared
Mm-hmm.
in me just painting. And and so then when I realized that this one over here, was looking like my son, I did go in and, made his eye green, which is what it was. And
Mm-hmm.
but his hair was really sandy curly. That was already there. His nose was there and his mouth was there.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't do anything else to it, but I did make his eye a little more obvious,
Mm-hmm.
on purpose. But otherwise, it just sort of appeared. And this is another one of those things where, because he was my biggest fan when I was the 3 months before, before his passing, his transformation, I'm just going to say,
Mm-hmm.
he said, "Mom, you really have something here. I think you could be good." And I'd say, "Oh no, I'm just playing. This is, I'm just kind of learning." He's, "No, this is, you need to pay attention to this." He was like the only one that was really encouraging me. Whereas, some of my other, family members would just sort of look at stuff and they'd laugh. Go,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, that was funny," um, you know, because I was trying. But no, he was my biggest fan, and so I felt like this was his moment. He came in and he said, and I see this. Let's see this. Wow, painting that one
Mm-hmm.
as it's not going to be a fun journey. This is not going to be fun. Like this, there's the scary things that are going to come, but you're going to get through it because look at those other doors behind you. I saw this when I finished this. I thought it was my most profound painting because of those things I just said. There's that door at the end that leads to this beautiful, mysterious, possibly wonderful place. But you got to go through some stuff first, which is what I think's going on with humanity. And I was going through that on a microcosmic scale, and I think humanity is going through this, on a large scale.
Yeah, I think that the journey of the soul that we have as individuals is echoed in the collective. So
Yes,
as we go through, the journey isn't easy. We go through hardships as individuals. Humanity goes through hardships, but ultimately, hopefully, we rise to the occasion. I know that's something that you and I both are working our best to try to make happen.
absolutely, absolutely. And what's so interesting is that I knew so much, even when I was painting all these paintings that first year
Mhm.
after I lost Chase. And after that year, by the way, I kind of lost the desire to paint. I tried to paint a couple of times and I just wasn't there for me really.
Mhm.
So I really knew that this was a gift for me to process, this grief and all the feelings that I had. And I couldn't, I gave away a few paintings. I've had people ask me if they could buy paintings. I wouldn't sell them. There was something that just said, no, not only will I not sell them because money feels different to me now.
Mhm.
It doesn't feel, I know it's important because it's, that's what we run on, but it doesn't have a meaning for me at all. And I
Mhm.
didn't feel like I wanted to put the paintings where they meant money, where they symbolically meant money. So I wouldn't sell them, but I have a friend, actually, it's the mutual friend that you and I met through,
Mhm.
uh, that said, you're never going to get rid of those paintings. And it's true. I have them everywhere because it reminds me of a time that was so transformative for me,
Mhm.
and such a important time for me to learn who I was, that I don't know that I could, like I said, maybe 5 paintings I've given away when I felt the feeling that they would really appreciate them,
Right.
for some reason, then I would. But it's interesting because I have them everywhere in my house, and it's not because I'm proud of, I'm so artistic, because that's not the case. It's because it reminds me every day to look into my soul,
Right.
to think about what it is that got me here and what I lost that got me here, but what I gained,
Mm.
uh, as well. And so,
Yeah.
for whatever reason, they mean a lot to me.
Oh, sure they do. I'm sure they do. So tell me about the work that you're doing now. So it's for people that don't know. First, let's start with the heart math. So
Yeah.
what is it you're doing with heart math?
Well, I've just integrated it. So heart math, as a certified heart math guide, if you will, we teach people how to become more resilient, and it's basically it's putting together breath and breathing into the heart space, and it's also at the same time feeling and visualizing a high vibrational. There's a lot more to it than this. This is the simplified form,
Sure.
but a high vibrational emotion, because then that helps our autonomic nervous system all feel that everything is okay, everything's good, right? Because we have a tendency to breathe shallow. We're all just inherently stressed out, kind of by design, if we really go deep into it. But everybody's inherently stressed out and trying to make it in this world whatever way they can.
Mm-hmm.
So we breathe shallow. Our body's always in stress mode. So this is just a quick, it's not like you have to sit down and go into meditation, which I've done too. It's harder for me to meditate because I'm a mover. It's hard for me to sit for that long. Mm-hmm. Even doing the Akashic records, I have to sit, for quite a long time. But anyway, this, I found that in 3 to 5 minutes, you can sort of re-energize, charge your batteries, if you will, within a 3 to 5 minute time frame. And when you learn to do this, and do it a few times, you can do this with your eyes open, which means you can do this when you're driving. It's basically, breathing in, 5 seconds in to your heart space, 5 seconds out, and then and there's a couple of steps after that, which is bringing in this vision, this idea, this feeling of a good, positive time in your life, or something that makes you happy, being on a hammock on the beach or whatever makes you feel a high frequency emotion. And then the breath and I've sort of changed it. So I'm not officially a heart math representative at this point, because I choose to teach this for free. I choose to incorporate it into the Akashic Records teachings or sessions that I do, because I think everyone needs to know how to do this, because we're helping relax our bodies. We're helping go find our peaceful place in our soul, which I believe helps us allow the messages coming in from our ancestors, from those we've lost, from our guides, our angels, and more. Because you have to find that peaceful place in order to do it. And you can literally find wisdom in that 3 minutes when you're about to go into a meeting, or you're about to make a big decision, or whatever it is, or just you're about to do something that's going to feel stressful. You can go into this place, and it is literally one of the few things that helped me, pull myself out of this feeling of that I was never going to get out of, of this low feeling. And it helped me tremendously. But now it helps me, as long as I remember to do this, but it brings a sense of balance into your life, and resilience. So you can bounce back quickly when things do happen. You find this place, and you find it in your heart, and you trust and you believe that you're strong. That's part of it for me, right? I have to trust and believe that I am not weak, and that I am not a rag doll, and I can't be pushed around, and I'm not a victim. So for me, that's my choice of how I bring this heart math. I call it the heart focused breathing, and once a month I do a free session where we do it together. Anybody that wants to join, I'm on Zoom, and I do it, and then I have a PDF that tells you how to do it that people can download. So I want everybody to know this.
And people can find that at your website?
Yes.
Okay.
healingheart.com.
All right. And then tell me about the Akashic Records. Now, I think a lot of us have heard of the Akashic Records, but there's a lot of confusion as to what they are and how they benefit us. So tell me about that.
Well, the Akashic Records is actually, it's referenced many times in the Bible. Edgar Casey. Edgar Casey, yeah. That's where he went when he did all of his sessions for healing, and he was in the Akashic records. That's well known. The Akashic records, from my perspective, and there's different, you can get, I have several books, and they don't all agree on what it is, but I believe that it is a realm, that is a library of all souls on, in the universe, and all lives that those souls have experienced, and even to the point where, a city or a, you can go beyond souls, but I focus on the souls, where you can see all the major events of any life, but it's guarded. It's a library, but it's guarded. So I could not go in and see someone's Akashic records unless I have been given permission, and that's part of the process of the Akashic records. You have to have permission. You can't abuse it. That's what I loved about it. It's not like a psychic that can go in and say, oh, well, I didn't really like that part. So this felt like, because we're going through the gatekeepers, through the library of souls, and we're asking permission for whatever that person needs to hear at that moment, which means no two sessions are ever alike. No two moments. I mean, no two moments. I've had experience where, they were saying one thing in the beginning of a session, and then by the end, they kind of were saying that the person already worked through it. So it's live and in that moment. So it's, to me, it was when because I started doing the automatic writing again, and then I morphed into the Akashic records, because I needed to know more, and I didn't know how to get more information, and I wasn't getting it through my meditations. I wanted information about everything. I want to know about everything. And so it helped me to understand more about Chase, and our relationship, and how we made those contract agreements, in the beginning. And it helped me on many, many levels. I don't ask about myself very much. In the beginning I did, but now I really don't, because I don't really know why. I don't really know why I don't, but I really don't ask anymore. I think it's, I'm just more interested in helping other people, I guess. I don't know.
So what types of things can an Akashic Records session help with? What kind of things can help us resolve?
It can be anything from, well, so this weekend I have a session with a lady that wants to clear some energy, which, I call DNA memory, about why she's afraid of heights and afraid of water. So that's one example. It could be that some people just want to have validation that they're hearing the messages that they think they're hearing. They want validation for that. It could be to release some emotional trauma about something that they don't know what it is. They feel like it's maybe a block. And sometimes it's, it's never a block from outside. It's always a block from inside. We're the ones blocking it. So sometimes it's like you can't see through the trees, right? Because you're the one, you're one of the trees. So it kind of helps you have a little insight into what it is that you don't want to look at. If somebody's making a big decision in their life, it helps to kind of walk through some of the obstacles that the Akashic records might say they don't need to worry about, or they should worry about. It could be anything in life. What it isn't about is 3D existence. It's really more of a soul reading, if you will, because it has to do with you and your relationship to those people around you, to life, and to in this world. And it'll only tell you what you're ready to hear. So sometimes they say, you know, we can't answer that question, but that's pretty rare that happens, but it has happened. They will only tell you what you're ready to hear.
So so in terms of, we talked about the ascension, or what's going on right now with people, with humanity. Does it give us any revelations in the what's happening and what we can look forward to?
Yes. Actually, really, really great information. I mean, I've heard. I don't always remember. In fact, I rarely remember. I should say that. I rarely remember specifics, but I do remember trends. And trends. The trends are that we are moving into this fifth dimensional energy, and they do talk about it in those terms. You know, we're moving out of the third dimension. We're moving through the fourth, and the fourth dimension is going to be very volatile, very uncomfortable, very much for some, a near-death experience kind of thing, you know, where, you know, it's going to be a very bumpy ride through the fourth dimension. And that's true for our own, because we are moving from the third dimension, we as a soul, each and every soul, moving from a third dimension through the fourth into the fifth. So we're, you know, as we talked about before, from a microcosm, we're going through the same thing. And then we are, as you said, all going through it at the same time. When we get to the fifth dimension, and not everyone will make it there, because you do have to be able to feel and see the higher vibrational energy. You know, you have to be able to live in that higher vibration, which is, you know, not fear, not anxiety, not anger. You know, those lower vibrations cannot survive. They love the third and the fourth dimension, but they cannot survive the fifth. So it's a matter of us working through and becoming these higher level, experiencing this higher level vibration, which is love, compassion, peace, joy. You know, where we're helping each other. They've shown us, my different clients, you know, where the client is doing something completely different than they were doing, but everything they're doing now is what led them to do this work, because we're going to be doing things for each other, with each other. It's going to be a beautiful, I have seen the pictures, because I see in my Akashic records, I mostly see pictures, but I also get words. You know, the words come through, but sometimes I just get pictures. And so I try to explain. Oh, sorry. Just had a huge, weird rainstorm come in. I wonder if that's a sign of something. Anyway, there is, so we're moving into this fifth dimension together. But again, not everybody can get there, because you have to be able to move yourself out of this lower realm anxiety and up into this beautiful, you know, place where you can hold the higher vibrational energies for longer periods of time. So it's going to be beautiful. We are going to go through some bumps. It's going to be a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, well, I think we can all see the discomfort now. And, you know, and I keep hearing this, and people will say, "Well, it doesn't look like we're getting any better. We still have, you know, all these things that are going on." But I think that's the bumpiness you're talking about, and that's kind of the separation, because there's some people that want to hold on to where we are, and then there's other people pulling the other way. So there's this tension that's happening.
That's right, and we're all going to come together. I've seen that clearly. We're all going to come together. Now, there's going to be some that simply can't make it, and they will choose to leave this realm. They just will. They'll choose, you know, either they'll choose or it'll be chosen for them to leave this realm. But generally speaking, we are moving into this beautiful place that is, but it is going to get a little worse before it gets better. You know, it's going to be a little more chaos. And but we have to trust and have faith that that's where we're heading, because that's what we get out of all of this is when we are focused on the divine connection, and that this is all part of why we're here. There's not anyone here at this moment that wasn't supposed to have a part in all of this. I mean, you specifically, very much so,
Right.
in
Right.
what you're doing. And you would not be doing this without having lost your beautiful daughter.
I think
So that's the gift.
yeah, I love what you said there. I think it's really important because we can feel like we can get so beat down by life, like this is a punishment, or at best this is random. And but we have to understand this is a special time, and we all are here for a special reason. That changes your mindset about everything.
It does. It really, really does. Because that's why some people think, how could she possibly see that losing her son was a gift? Well, it wasn't about losing my son. The gift was that this was the plan, and that this was, and I didn't lose him.
Right.
He's not physically standing with me here, but he has been doing everything that he can to help humanity from where he is. And I believe that he thought he could do better there than here.
Mm-hmm.
He did the best he could do from here, and then it was time to go. I believe that he was many of our children, our Starseed children, were from higher realms,
right.
higher dimensions, and that they came down dimensions in order to be here, which is why it was so difficult for them to manage well, because they just came from these beautiful places, right? And
mm-hmm.
and now they're stuck in this place.
Yeah. Not
so cool, right?
Right.
And so they came. They could only handle it for so long. They did the best they could, and but if you see it in that way, and sure, it is a choice. To me, it's the truth. It is the truth. So I didn't just decide, oh, I'm going to believe that story.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what happened to me, because I like facts, and even though I was always spiritual, I have faith to a point, but I have to have something that gives me the feeling that faith is not just Pollyanna-ish, right?
Right.
So it's taken me some time to get there, and now I am certain that all of this is a divine plan. We are in the middle of a divine plan, and we have to go through some bumps, but we have to more so believe that where we're going is worth it all. It's so worth it all that it's going to be, this place where we all care and serve one another,
mm-hmm.
where we truly love. And right now I don't feel like, I have an 87-year-old mother that I care for. She is getting scammed left and right. People trying to scam her, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Computer and mail and you name it, trying to, it's that kind of energy that is no longer going to be here. That energy is going to go away. And I'm excited for that time, so anyway, that's how I.
That's great. I love that. And yes, there is. We can feel the tension that's going on now, and we can feel people that are saying we're ready to move forward, and we can feel people saying, no, actually, we like to go back. we don't. Not only do we not want to go forward, let's go back. So
Going back.
There's a lot of that going on. But Teena, tell people. So we talked about your heart math, and how people can get more information on your website. So tell people, make sure everybody knows what your website is and what it is that you offer.
Okay, well, it mostly, what I offer, is my Akashic records, and I believe that we're going to have a link here for them,
mm-hmm.
With a little discount. But Akashic records is what I do. Besides my just reading my books and doing my spiritual work, I do Akashic records, and. But what I'm really, really passionate about as well, is getting the information out for heart-focused breathing. to help people handle, especially what's coming, right? For us to stay balanced and resilient throughout this, you know, because it is a soul journey. So we can, you know, not one little exercise or practice is going to change everything, but it is really going to help, especially while you're trying to get through your soul journey to that other side. So heart focused breathing is a pretty simple practice that you can do 2 or 3, 4 times a day, 3 to 5 minutes. I am very passionate about everyone knowing how to do this, especially children at school.
Yeah.
It's so simple, but they need something to help them, our little ones. So I really like them, and there's some books and things like that you can get for your children. But anyway, I have a PDF, which I think is also going to be on this link with you, but it's on my website, which is healingheartist.com.
Yeah.
And so there, and then the second Wednesday of every month, I do a free session on Zoom where you can sign up and for free, and you just come on, and for half an hour we work on the heart focused breathing practice, and we kind of go through some questions. Because I will say, when I was still in heavy grief when I started this, going down the heart math road. I could not find that joy. I could not find any of those things. And so I talk a little more about that, especially, you know, if I'm doing an Akashic Records session with someone I know that lost someone, you know, a parent, you know, husband, wife, child, I go a little deeper in how to find, you know, to try to find that joy, that, you know, and pretty much you just have to start with peace, because you can't find joy and you can't find, you know, happiness and all of that. But if you can find peace, you're there. You've got a foundation anyway.
Yeah. I love the way you put that. I think that's great. Well, Teena, thanks again for being here today and for sharing Chase with us and your journey and what you have to offer to the world.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And it was wonderful speaking with you.
Yeah. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Take care.